The in-laws aren't questioning about how they know about the image. Looks like someone's in big trouble. It's more than just some images. The daughter was part of a larger case that the FBI was involved in. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Gray in Between, where we explore the stories that thrive in the space between right and wrong, clear and confusing. I'm your host, Lola, and together we'll dive into the captivating tales from Reddit and beyond, where life's most complicated moments take center stage. In a world that's really black and white, we're here to navigate the in-betweens, offering fresh perspectives, thoughtful advice, and plenty of heart. So get comfortable and let's journey through the gray together. All right, guys, let's start this off. My 32 female, husband 32 male, won't cut off his emotional affair with a coworker, 20 female. I'm getting tired of the gaslighting, but I have no proof this time. Do I confront him again? I don't know. I never thought I'd be the one posting here for advice, but I'm truly at a loss and I don't know what to do. Throw away for privacy, even though I probably put too many details in here as is. I apologize for how long this is. There are actually more details I'm leaving out, but felt it was getting too long. My husband, 33 male, and I, 32 female, have been together for over a decade, grew up in the same town together, and have lived in another state together for about 8 years. There's been plenty of great times. He's truly my best friend. We've had some hard times too. We've been through it all since we got together in college. Long distance relationships, cross-country moves, family drama, death, job changes, etc. And I've always come out on the other side stronger. Until now. This all started about a year ago when my husband's coworker Laura, mid-20s female, came on to him at a bar where I was not present, but I had been there earlier in the night. She knows he is married. He was pretty drunk and told her off. I made it clear to him I did not like this girl and that I did not want him drinking around her anymore. I can give more details on her if needed, but I have had a bad feeling about her since the moment I met her. He told me not to worry about it since she's fat. I've always trusted him. We share locations, have each other's passcodes and passwords, talk multiple times a day, etc. So I've tried to brush it off as best as I could. In our 12 years together, I've never had any reason to worry about that type of thing. Fast forward to last summer when we were on a trip and late at night on a weekend, I see a text from Laura on his work phone. There is no work-related reason for them to be talking during this time, so red flags went off immediately. I looked through the messages and there was nothing incriminating, just back and forth conversations, but I still confronted him about it. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to his sister. I asked him why he was talking to her knowing that I wasn't comfortable with it, and we had a long talk about it, and he assured me it wouldn't happen again. Why would she send it to his sister? I don't understand. Are you asking, like, is she your friend? Are you looking for advice? Like, hey, why is your brother doing this again? You should be talking to him about it. The next week, he came home from work and told me that he had a conversation with her where he told her they could no longer talk if it was not work related since I'm getting the wrong impression of their relationship. I wouldn't even say that. Look, he doesn't have to put your name in the mix at all. I would say, hey, I don't think we should be talking if it's not about work, period. Not that my wife feels uncomfortable or anything like that. Just say, I don't find it appropriate. That's it. Why bring your name into it? Everything was fine until Christmas when we went to visit family. After Christmas Eve with his family, we went back to the hotel and we were getting ready for bed. When again, his work phone goes off with a text from Laura. We had both been drinking, so I grabbed his phone and looked through all the messages. Again, nothing super incriminating, but he had assured me before that they would only talk if it was work related, and there's no reason for them to be texting at 1 a.m. after Christmas Eve. I admittedly was furious. I sent a text back to Laura basically telling her to off, blocked her number, and threw his phone in the toilet. He was too drunk to really comprehend what was going on and didn't say much. Just a lot of, what's your problem? Nothing has happened, and bullshit like that. I didn't sleep a wink that night and actually packed all of my stuff to catch a flight home. I didn't end up going, and instead we had a long talk again, and he assured me it would never happen again and that he loves me and that I'm his soulmate. He changed his work phone password after this, which I understand. I'm sorry, you two just sound really, really, really unhealthy. There's no trust between either of you. The Christmas fight took a lot of willpower to get over on my part, and right when I finally felt like I was making some progress in forgiving him, things went downhill once more. We found out recently that his company had an opportunity to move us to another city in our state, about 3 hours from where we live. The catch was that the move had to happen as soon as possible, but since we don't have any kids and I work remotely, we decided to take the leap. It was a bit of a mad dash to find a place to live, but a realtor helped us find a place. We signed a lease and moved. I found out later that the realtor was referred to us by Laura, which I wasn't worried about considering she works in a department that helps facilitate these types of things for their employees. In the middle of our move, my husband tells me that he has to go on a work trip to help recruit college kids from a competition that he used to participate in. He was planning to attend with guys that he actually works with now and was on a competition team with in college, which I didn't love given the timing, but I understood. Come to find out, one of the guys dropped out and now Laura is attending in his place. He was upfront about this to me and I made it very clear I was not okay with this. Again, he reassured me that everything would be fine and he would check in with me as much as possible. The week before the trip, my husband had a going away party for work at a local brewery, which he originally told me about and asked if I wanted to come. Now that the party was approaching, he never mentioned to me again, nor told me about any details. I felt as though he was purposely keeping me away from it once he knew that Laura would be attending. While he was there, I was texting him and got no response. I could see his location and saw that he was still there, so I figured he must just be having conversations with his coworkers. It was getting late and I knew this place closed at 9. His location was still showing there for about 20 minutes after closing, and then it was gone. I called him, no answer. Texted, no answer. No location for over an hour. We live in a high cell service area, so I know he did not lose service and my texts were being delivered. I checked his Apple Watch and checked the location of his phone through it, and he was in front of Laura's apartment. I texted him that something felt very wrong and that I needed him to come home. He called me back and acts like nothing is wrong. I could tell he was drunk and covering up a lie. He was giving way too many details that I never asked for about where he's been. What happened at the end of the night, how one of his coworkers got too drunk and he had to drive him home. So I asked him why he was just near an apartment that Laura lives in. He denied it and told me he had no idea what I was talking about, that I was making things up and being worried for no reason, that he doesn't even know how to turn off his location. He's not stupid, but he's playing dumb. Just textbook gaslighting. He got home and it was more of the same, but the conversation continued and we made up. I asked him why he keeps talking to her and why he keeps doing this even though he knows it hurts me. He just said he didn't know. He finally admitted that he had to drive a coworker home, and since she lived on the way, he dropped her off as well. He claims he didn't tell me because he thought I would be angry. My instinct tells me there's more to it than that, but I have no proof. The following week was the work trip, and I again made it known that I was not okay with him going, especially after what had just occurred. In the end, it felt like I had no choice as he went anyway because he claimed it was too late to cancel. The whole time he was there, he texted me nonstop, FaceTimed me, etc. And as much as I wasn't happy, I accepted it. When he got back, we completed our move and everything has been great. I think part of me is just happy to be away from where Laura lives. This is where things have derailed considerably, except that he doesn't know that I know this yet. This past weekend, we made a trip back to our old house 3 hours away to see some friends and drove separately since we left on different days. Yesterday, at the end of the trip, he was finishing some things up around the house and I wanted to drive back before it got dark, so I left around 2:30 and told him to let me know when he was on his way too. Here's a timeline of events. 4:45. He texted me a picture of the project he was working on, so I figured he would be on his way shortly. 5 o'clock. He texted me something about the photo. 5:30, I replied to his text when I got home and it says not delivered. I checked to see if he had left yet, but his location was not loading. It just had a ping at 5:02, relatively near where he had to get on the highway, 13-minute drive from our house. The ping was showing on the top of a hotel right off the highway, but since it's right near on the ramp, I didn't think anything of it and assumed he was just in his body service area of his drive. 5:50, I called him and his phone goes straight to voicemail. 6:05, I call his work phone and it rings but no answer. Odd since he has it connected to his truck. 6:20, he called me back and it sounded like he was getting into his truck. He said he was at a gas station off the highway that's about 25 minutes from the house. This matches his location, which is now back. He briefly says he left around 5:30 from the house, which the math doesn't add up. Says his personal phone died and he plugged it into his car. 8:30ish, he walks in the door. I know he was at the house at 4:45. Maybe his phone did die a little after 5 p.m., but then he picked up and left the house a little before 6, plugged his phone in and made it to the gas station 25 minutes away by 6:20. But what doesn't sit right is the ping off the highway at 5:02. If his phone died at home, why would it ping his location 13 minutes away? I suppose it's possible the ping is inaccurate and I don't know enough about it. Normally I could rationalize this all, but something wasn't sitting right, so I checked our phone bill this morning and my heart absolutely sank. Text messages and phone calls on his personal phone to a number I don't have. A lot of phone calls going back months and all lining up with weekends we were not together. Long phone calls of an hour plus each time. His entire drive both to and from our old house are 67 minutes, 24 minutes, 18 minutes, etc., starting at 6:15. They were calling each other back each time the call dropped and spoke the entire time. I reverse looked up the number and it's Laura. He hung up with me and called her. I have no words for how hurt and foolish I feel. He's my entire world, and without him, I would feel completely alone. But I don't know if that's better or worse than the loneliness I've been feeling these past few months. I hate that I've become jealous and distrusting. I never would have thought twice about any of this before, but now I overthink every small detail. The gaslighting and the broken promises are tearing me apart. Each time I've confronted him, I've been met with accusations that I'm crazy and looking for things that aren't there. I could have let the timing of the drive go, but these phone calls for hours and hours have added a layer of suspicion that I cannot overlook. Even if nothing physical happened between them, the emotional cheating somehow cuts deeper. I have a screenshot of the ping, I have the phone bill. What I don't have is the content of the text on his personal phone. I want to check that before I confront him, but I just don't know if I can hold it together. I have no evidence of anything physical, and if they did meet last night, it would have been brief, but it's plausible. It's also plausible that they didn't meet in person, only talked. It's even more plausible that something happened on the work trip or after the going away party. I don't know what to do. Should I confront him when he gets home tonight with what I have? Ask to see his phone? Take his phone? Just pack up and go? Am I actually looking for things that aren't there? Any advice is appreciated. Holy moly! At this point, I wouldn't even want him if I was you. Also, there's a big part. He was driving drunk with all these people. You know, I'll be honest. At first, I thought you were just being really insecure. So I apologize for my internal thoughts. Because when you admitted that you checked his phone multiple times and found nothing incriminating, I was like, okay, then leave it alone. But I guess your gut was telling you that something was wrong, you know. And then also I was like, how do you even know where Laura lives? That was like kind of, I was like, how do you know where she lives? This was stressful for me to leave. Honestly, this was really stressful for me to I can't even speak. Honestly, this was really stressful for me to read. If I would have left by this time. If he's gonna go, if you want to, I'm the type of person I would want to confront, but I would be in an emotionally steady mind. So calm, collected, whenever you're ready, have that conversation. And you say, why were you talking to Laura on your way home that day? When I specifically told you multiple times, I do not like you being associated with her at all. You don't respect it. You don't respect me, and you obviously enjoy talking to her. So keep going talking to her because you won't be needing to talk to me anymore. I'm out of here. Dip. Get out. Also, driving home drunk, big no-no. Or was he really drunk? I don't know. But still, these are all very, very concerning things. I accused my wife of cheating and asked for a paternity test for our 3 kids. Man. Basically what the title says. My wife has brown hair so dark it looks black, blue eyes, and a skin tone that is a couple of shades darker than tan. I have black hair, dark brown eyes, and a skin tone a shade darker than my wife. We have 3 children, 2 boys, 6, and a little girl, 3. None of them look like me or my wife. My boys have brown reddish hair, hazel eyes. My girl is a dark blonde with light brown eyes. They are all on the lighter side when it comes to skin tone. I didn't think anything of it at first. Both me and my wife have some interesting heritage, but from the birth of my sons, my family kept bringing it up to me. They would point out the facial features all the time. Where does that chin come from? Look at those cheekbones. That boy stands as straight as a ruler. Who has hair that straight? Things like that. I shut them down or ignored it all. I never paid any mind to them. Until you did. Then an old high school friend of my wife was in town. He was only in town for a couple of days, so there wasn't really time for my wife to meet him for lunch or anything because we had a lot going on. So my wife invited him to our girl's 3rd birthday party. He wasn't at our wedding and I never met him before, even on previous visits. He was always in and out. Sometimes my wife could see him, sometimes she couldn't. Then there he was, this tall white man with dark blonde hair and hazel colored eyes. He and my wife were obviously close. They hugged for a long time. The whole time he was there, he was wherever my wife was, and me and my family watched them. If she was putting more food out, he was there helping. If she was collecting stray plates and cups and trash, he was there giving a hand. The whole time he was there, they were laughing and talking. She introduced him to those who didn't know him, but it was obvious he wasn't there to socialize. He just wanted to talk to her for the time he was there. A couple of hours later, it was time for him to go. My wife walked him out. They had another long hug before he climbed into his Uber and left. My mother and sister were in my ears from the moment they laid eyes on him. I didn't need to hear their suspicions. I had plenty of my own walking around in my head. I'll spare you all the gory details of my behavior in the weeks following my girl's birthday. I'll only say I wasn't a pleasure to be around. My wife doesn't like drama, doesn't like conflict. She likes to talk things out. That doesn't mean she'll back away from the conflict and avoid drama at any cost. Only that she prefers to work things out calmly. So in the middle of me picking an argument with her, when I finally outright accused her of cheating, accused her of passing those kids off as mine and demanding a paternity test, I did not expect her to come back to me as hot as she did. She said she had been waiting for the day I would throw this at her. She had not been blind or deaf to what all of my family had said and done over the years in my allowing it. But she had hoped I had more trust in her than to listen to people that never approved of her. People who had nothing better to do with their lives but talk BS about everyone else. I don't know why, but her saying those things pushed me over the edge. The argument grew and grew. I grabbed her by the upper arm so hard I left bruises and shook her. Her hand came up and slapped me right across the face. The police were called. I was made to leave the house. I went to my parents. A couple of days later, I went home, but the locks had been changed and my wife wasn't answering the door or picking up her phone. The following week, she filed for a petition for paternity of all of my kids. 2 weeks later, the day after I was given confirmation that they were my kids, I received divorce papers. It's been months. I've tried calling her. I have reached out through Facebook, tried intermediaries, I've written letters. She's refused to engage. I've been told by her sister, who has been blocked by my wife, that she refuses to talk to anyone about me and is cutting out anyone who tries to bring me up. She doesn't care if they're family or friends. One word about me and she cuts them out, blocks them. Her parents are the go-between these days and only about the kids. They bring the kids to me whenever I ask for them. My wife won't allow me at the house, not even to pick up or drop off the kids. Yet she doesn't try to stop me from seeing them. Her mom told me she doesn't know if my wife will ever forgive me. She's deeply hurt and absolutely refuses to speak about me. I try to give them money for my kids every time I see them, but they refuse it, saying my wife doesn't want my money. A mutual friend has told me he thinks I broke her. He and his wife help her with the kids sometimes, and he says the life has gone right out of her. I have leased an apartment a couple of blocks away from my wife and children and have gone very low contact with my own family. Not that I blame them for what I did, but it's hard to be around them right now. They continue to blame my wife for all that's happened and take no accountability for any wrongdoings against her since my sons were born. My kids keep asking when I'm coming home and why mom cries all the time. I don't know what to tell them. I'm not looking for advice on how to save my marriage. It's too late for that. There's no getting around the fact that I've destroyed my family. I miss my kids. I miss my wife. I wish I could take it all back. I've lost her. Even so, maybe there are people here who can advise me on how to foster an amicable co-parenting relationship. Maybe help me find a way that will get my wife to accept my financial support for her and the kids. I still pay the mortgage on the house, so she doesn't have to worry about that. She works, but she doesn't make enough to live comfortably. I am prepared to be vilified. My only hope is that there is some useful counsel and guidance that comes with the insults and disparagement. You created this bullshit scenario in your head and not only confronted her, but you also assaulted her to the point of leaving bruises on her skin and imploded on your marriage. Good for her for not tolerating the abuse. You now have the proof that your kids are yours, so now accept that your relationship is over and make sure that you're paying your child support. And if she won't accept your money, then open a savings account for all your 3 kids and put it there for them when they're older. It blows my mind that people really don't understand biology. I have green eyes. My parents both have brown eyes. People are like, where did these green eyes come from? Me and my brother have green eyes. None of my parents' siblings have green eyes. None of my parents' parents have green eyes. Out of my mom's 7 siblings, out of my dad's 13 siblings, none of their siblings or their kids have green eyes. Just me and my brother. Called a genetic mutation. It happens. There's a possibility that your kids can come out. You ever see like couples like black hair, brown eyes, they have ginger babies. I've seen it. It happens. And you also said, I'll spare you all the glory details of my behavior. If this is the version without the glory details, I don't even want it. I'm worried about what really went down. He knows what he did was wrong, right? Obviously, but still. He doesn't want people to give opinion on his marriage because he knows it's over, which good. At least you know that. He's just trying to be amicable, which I don't think she wants anything to do with you. You not only accused your wife of one of the worst things, infidelity, but you grabbed her so hard that you left bruises and wonder why she won't engage with you. My girlfriend's brother donated his heart to me and we didn't find out until recently. This happened when I was 18 and in need of a heart transplant, waiting on a list. We were waiting for months. Then just like that, we got the call and it changed my life. I was so grateful to the donor. My mom and I even made our own letters to send to the family, but they never wanted contact, which I respected. He saved my life, but theirs was all heartbreak. For years, I was always grateful for the sacrifice, but even more now that my girlfriend and I met years later, and now we're expecting a baby boy in August. Also because we know the whole truth now. She never talked about her brother much, so all I knew was that he died. His birthday was the other week. My girlfriend wanted to visit his grave because they haven't done it in a while. She opened up about his car accident, being on life support until they decided to take him off, and since he was registered as an organ donor, this isn't what got me thinking though. What did was the fact that the exact date of his death is when I got the call for the heart transplant. Me and my girlfriend decided to find out the truth because her family was grieving so much they never looked at the letter sent by me. We had a long talk with my mom about this because if she'd rather not know, then we'll drop it. Her mom gave us her blessing to find out. Luckily, she never got rid of the letter, only never got around to reading it because it was too painful, and that's how we found out. It was only my first name that I mentioned, but I remembered every word I said on that letter. We cried for hours. All this time, life brought us together in this crazy way, and neither of us ever knew. It's too wild. He gave me a chance to be alive, to meet the love of my life, and start a family with her. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world, all thanks to him. Oh, I needed this refresh after reading all these very traumatic stories, even though this is still very traumatic. I gave flowers to my husband today, and his reaction made me realize I might be a bad wife. Recently, my friends made fun of me, 35 female, saying that my husband, 32 male, is the romantic one in our relationship, and apparently wins by a margin in that department. They even scoffed at the idea that I could be romantic at all. This made me start to be self-conscious about it as one of my friends went on detail about how much more romantic he is compared to all of my friends' husbands and how I am the total opposite. This has been in my mind all week, and today a male coworker was talking about how his wife gave him flowers and how he was surprisingly happy about it. So I thought, well, why not? He buys me flowers all the time. I should start being more romantic. After work, I went to pick up a bouquet and headed home. When I arrived, he was playing with our daughter, 5-year-old, and I gave him the bouquet and I said, I was thinking about you and got you this. He started crying. He cried so much. He thanked me and hugged me and then went to look for a vase to put the flowers in. Throughout the night, he cried randomly 2 separate times. I asked him if anything else happened to him to be that way and he said no, that he was just happy that I got him flowers and was feeling a bit emotional. And here I am thinking, am I a terrible wife? He gets me flowers all the time and I never get emotional like that, not even close. Now I'm thinking back and I don't do nearly as much for him compared to what he does for me in every way, and my friends are 100% right. Romantically, he kicks my ass. I just feel absolutely terrible because I love him more than anything. He is my world and I could not even think of myself without him. He is an amazing husband, an even better father, and mostly he's my best friend. But I guess I don't show him how much I appreciate him and he doesn't know how much I love him, and that makes me so sad. And then that makes me feel even worse because I'm thinking of myself instead of him. Now I'm here in bed. I can't sleep thinking about this. I don't know if I should talk to him about it or if I should just quietly try to be better and show him how much I appreciate him. This just reminded me of the statistic where they say, like, not a statistic, but there's like the only time guys ever get flowers is on their funeral. I didn't know guys really care about that, but I think it really is dependent. As much as actions are important, verbalizing your love is also important, and how much someone means to you or you mean to them, and knowing that makes a difference. Also, being romantic isn't always like buying gifts. Maybe you show love in a different way, and if not, start showing it. And of course, tell him how much he means to you. The people you love should always know you love them. I think that's what it is. And I think that because you thought of him, he felt loved. So maybe he's just like words of affirmation or gift giving. That's maybe his love language, you know? My wife, 37 female, and I, 38 male, want to adopt our teenage foster daughter, but father-in-law, 64 male, is furious about it. My wife and I have two biological teenage sons, one older and one younger than our foster daughter. We've been fostering kids for many years, but the goal has always been to reunify the kids with their parents, which has happened successfully each time until now. 2 years ago, we took in our foster daughter, now mid-teens. She had been through a lot and was labeled as a troubled kid and not adoptable. I won't go into details, but the issue in this matter is that there are images of her going around amongst a certain community from before we took her in. We were informed by authorities about all of this before, so it's not like this came as a surprise after we got to know her. I'm not going to lie, it has not been easy. Our families have seen us struggle, but almost everyone has been super supportive. The first 5 to 6 months were the hardest. She didn't trust us, and she was angry at the world. Rightfully so. Then, one random night, I got up in the middle of the night and unintentionally ended up scaring her shit, and she had a full-blown panic attack. She was okay after a little while, but it was like something clicked for her that night. It was like she realized that we were on her side, and we watched her change from this angry and sad little girl to the ambitious young teenager we know today. It started with her telling us thank you for everything we did, small things like driving her to practice, and she said it with a smile on her face. It was so amazing to see her feeling better and not so lonely anymore. From there, everything changed. She made new friends and got a lot closer to my sons, especially the older one. Her grades went from failing multiple classes to getting straight A's. Not because we were nagging her, but because she wanted to. Each member of our household has developed a good and strong relationship with her, and the love we have for this girl cannot be put into words. We've reached that cosmic connection. She still struggles with a few things, which is totally fair after all she's been through, but she's working on it. And we are supporting her in every way we can. Overall, she's doing amazing. She's so strong, and I'm very proud of her. We made the decision to fight the system to change their verdict from not adoptable to available for conditional adoption because we want to commit to her for life. We want to adopt her. Last month, we got the call that they changed their verdict, and we sent in our papers that were already ready and things are looking very promising. The thing is, we haven't told her yet. She knows that she is now adoptable, but we haven't asked for her if she wants us to officially adopt her yet. My wife and I have talked to our sons about it, and they are fully on board. We talked to my parents, our brothers and sisters, and their spouses. All of them have a good relationship with our daughter, and every single one of them is so supportive of our decision and willingly to fully welcome our daughter into our family. Then there is the wife's parents. Mother-in-law hasn't been awful, I guess, but maybe it's because I'm comparing what she said to what father-in-law said. We told them about our plan and asked them about their opinion. Mother-in-law asked if we were sure as our daughter doesn't quite fit in. My wife and I didn't understand at all since our daughter has a very similar personality as we and our sons do. But it turns out she's very concerned about the visual side of it as she's clearly not our biological child and people will start asking questions. The thing is, my wife, myself, and our sons are very tall. Our daughter is not. She is tiny compared to us and has a similar eye color, but not the exact same. All 5 of us have the same skin tone and colored and textured hair. Not that I think this matters at all, but the stupidity of it is unreal. Apart from height, she could pass as our biological daughter, so I'm starting to think this is a lame excuse for something else. I told her that people would ask questions no matter what, because even if our daughter was the spitting image of my wife, it's not like she suddenly gave birth to a teenager 2 years ago. And the answer to any question is very simple. She's adopted. Ta-da! It's not like it could ever become a secret now, so I don't get it. Mother-in-law didn't say much after that, but it was very clear she was not on board. Father-in-law hadn't said anything, but he didn't seem excited at all. I asked for his opinion and he just stared at us for a minute and then he said, "Don't do this to yourself and our family." It's safe to say I was confused, but I had no idea what to say. After a few more seconds, he went off. He started talking about their family name and he didn't want that to be ruined by a little whore and what would people think of. Ah, I see. He started talking about their family name and he didn't want that ruined by a little whore and what would people think if they saw these images floating around on the internet. I was stunned. My wife couldn't find any words either and started crying before she just left. I didn't say a word while father-in-law finished ranting, but 1,000 thoughts went through my head. Eventually he stopped talking and I still had trouble finding any words to say. I just told him, "You are sick," and I left too. My wife is destroyed after hearing what her father thinks about our daughter. We have no idea how they know about these images as we haven't told anyone about it. I'm 100% certain my wife didn't tell them as the relationship is not that great. My wife is closer to my mother than her own, so that wouldn't make sense. We have tried to hide this from the kids since this happened, but my older sensed something was very wrong and asked about it. I told him our conversation with our in-laws about adopting our daughter didn't go very well and they weren't supportive. He wanted to know why. I told him I couldn't tell him, but that it was serious and promised to talk about it to him in a few years when he's an adult. And I assured him that our daughter didn't do anything wrong. Our plans haven't changed and that it's father-in-law who's being unreasonable. My son told me that our daughter told him a few months ago that she didn't think my in-laws liked her very much, especially father-in-law. This happened 2 days ago and we haven't spoken to them since. I'm not sure I even want to try, to be honest. For me, this is going no contact worthy. I want nothing to do with them. My wife is in pieces and has mentioned that she doesn't want them in her life after this. This has tainted our adoption experience for sure. I'm afraid though that if we piss father-in-law even more that he will start talking to our family about these images. I do realize that he will look like a pig in everyone's eyes, but I would like to spare our daughter from everyone knowing about what's out there. I usually talk to my mother about heavy stuff in life, but I cannot talk to her about this without feeling like I'm exposing my daughter by telling my mother more than I want for my daughter's sake. Internet strangers, I have no idea what to do from here. How do I go about the situation with my father-in-law without creating more mess than absolutely necessary for my daughter? Can I just say I love that you guys are referring to her as your daughter, and I love hearing and seeing stories about people like this who exist in the world who just really want better for kids who've had a shitty start in life. So that's really commendable. No contact is definitely a route that I would consider. And I know you're worried about him telling other people. People like him are too prideful because it's going to be his daughter's daughter and he's going to be associated to her. He's never going to I don't think he's going to spread that information about the images to other people. You know what I mean? I'm really curious as to how your father-in-law found those pics or know about those pictures. I would spend my effort into figuring out what was he doing to find out that those pictures existed. If you and your wife were the only ones who knew what happened. Oh, okay. Someone has a quick update. They cut off all contact with the in-laws. Also talked to the wife's siblings who agreed to screw the in-laws. The in-laws are in questioning about how they know about the image. Looks like someone's in big trouble. Literally everyone in their extended family except for the in-laws are happy for them and agreed. Screw the in-laws. It's more than just some images. The daughter was part of a larger case that the FBI was involved in. OP didn't say much about this to protect her. She said yes when they asked if she wanted them to adopt her. Yay, happy ending. I love this. So good. Oh my God. My heart. All right, you guys, this is the final story for today's episode. And it's, of course, a viewer submission. Let's get into it. My dad has a secret ex-wife. Last year, I was woken up in the wee hours of the morning by a phone call from my mom asking where I was. I told her I was asleep in my apartment. And she double and triple checked. You're definitely lying in bed in your apartment in your city. And you're not in the hospital in this city? I'm like, no, I'm definitely at home. How and why would I be in the hospital hours away by car and boat? She tells me she got waken up by a frantic phone call from my dad, who was in turn woken up by a phone call from a social worker who said that he was the emergency contact of someone who was at the hospital and couldn't make decisions for themselves. There wasn't any more information and that worker's shift ended shortly after, so we couldn't call them back. Obviously, that wasn't me, but it freaked us all out because my dad's a bit of a hermit and there are very few people who might even consider putting him as an emergency contact. He isn't even one of my primary contacts as he lives 2 hours further up island and works night shift, and none of those people would be on the mainland. We could account for the location of each of his family members and he only has 2 friends, so the list got whittled down to 0 pretty quick. Eventually, we all got back to sleep and hoped the stranger in the hospital would be okay. That afternoon, my mom picked me up so we can go shopping. I was picking up a rescue hamster later that day and needed supplies. And on the drive, we were talking about how weird that phone call was and theorizing on who, what, why, where, etc. We run through the entire list, and when we think we've exhausted it, I remember Anna. My dad lives in a trailer on a large property in the middle of nowhere with 2 little houses on it that he rents out dirt cheap to help cover the mortgage payments. Anna is an elderly lady who rents the house directly next to his trailer. She's even more of a hermit than my dad, and she doesn't talk to any of her family, so he takes care of her. Makes sure she's doing okay, helps her with technology, real blind leading the blind situation there. picks up her mail, buys her grocery, makes sure her cats haven't overrun her, stuff like that. I don't know much about her except the snippets he's mentioned, so she didn't come to mind immediately when listing people in his life. But if anyone's going to list my dad as an emergency contact, it would be her. She also wouldn't end up on the mainland though, so the mystery remains. But mentioning Anna sparks my mom's memory and she yells, "Oh, or Sherry," as if that explains everything. I've never heard of Sherry, so I ask her and her face drops and she just goes, "Oh, I guess that's a secret." Of course, that just piques my interest more and I push. She tells me that before she met him, my dad was married to a woman in his village named Sherry, and they were both a little eccentric, so they got divorced quickly. She eventually moved to the mainland, and she is the type of person to forget to change her emergency contact for decades. Back in the village, it happened and life moved on, and nobody spoke of it for 20 years until my mom spilled the beans in the parking lot of the dollar store. This information stunned me for a few minutes, so she goes to have a smoke while I process. When she gets back, I have more questions. Most importantly, what about this conversation suddenly reminded her of this secret person? We were just talking about his neighbor. Anna is Sherry's mother. The old lady my dad takes care of is not some random old lady like I had thought for all the years she's lived there. She was his mother-in-law. One of the aforementioned kids who abandoned her was my dad's secret ex-wife. I learned all this and then had to go measure out seeds for hamster food mix. My dad still doesn't know I know. I won't bring this up until he brings it up, and knowing him, he never will. I want to bring it up to someone though, and I love your videos. This seemed like the kind of story you'd find entertaining. I also included a picture of the hamster I picked the day I found this information out. His name is Blackberry. Oh my god, what a cute hamster! Thank you for thinking of sending this to me. That is just like, this is more just like a truth off my chest. Like, you don't really need feedback for this. It's just like, oh, I'm surprised, like, not surprised. I think it's good that your mom didn't care that he was still keeping in touch with his ex-mother-in-law. She's innocent in all of this. I'm trying to like figure it out as a kid. Like if I found out my dad had a secret ex-wife and his ex-mother-in-law was there. Oh my God, what? That's so crazy. All right, you guys, that's it for today's episode of The Gray in Between. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you have a story you'd like to share or a dilemma you'd like me to weigh on, don't hesitate to reach out. Remember, life isn't always black and white. There's beauty in the gray. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep exploring the in-betweens. Bye.